getting a little too excited, forgetting to click the button. Yeah. All right, and let me just check.
It's okay, man. All right, let's give it a let's get the show on the road, man.
All right.
All right, ladies and gents, Daniel and Kedra coming to you live from. We good?
Yep. You're good.
All right. What's up, ladies and gents? Daniel and Kedra, City and KL, respectively, to 50 Shades of Gainz. This is our no-nonsense podcast aimed at you. Piece of actual information that you can apply into whatever program you're currently following. We're going to be having a whole bunch of really cool people, really knowledgeable on the podcast to address the questions that you might have. Feel free to hit us up on Facebook, on Twitter. We'll put up links at the end of the video. And yeah, come hang out with us. This is pretty much a no-nonsense approach to achieving all the gains that you want but don't know how. Today's going to be our introductory episode. Kedrick and I are just going to give you a little bit of information about who we are, what we do, and what we do. So, Kedrick, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sweet stuff, Danielle. Thanks for the introduction. And yeah, for myself right now, I'm a personal trainer, strength coach based in KL. And it's pretty interesting how I got into the industry. I mean, I started off as a really skinny kid. I mean, if you place me in the middle of a field, you would think that I'm a scarecrow. I mean, I was really, really thin. And at one point, I was playing a lot of sports. And I decided that I needed to get an edge over the athletes who are probably much more genetically gifted than I am, could jump higher than I am. Therefore, I went to the internet, saw information, looking on how I can pack on some muscle, be more explosive, jump higher. And yeah, I found a lot of information, and it just started from there. So I started some weight training, started lifting, started doing some jumps, and a couple of months later, I saw noticeable progress, and that's when I started to really love what I'm doing. And it's not only me that saw changes in my body composition, but my friends as well. They saw that I was packing on muscle, and they started asking me, "Hey man, what have you been doing? You've been packing on some muscle, and your physique has really been changing." So I just gave them some advice, gave them some insight on what I was doing. At that time, I had no idea what I was saying. It's probably like a bunch of bro science and stuff like that. But I mean, I did what I can to help my friends, what I know. And sooner or later, more and more people came, and they asked me about what I'm doing. And I realized that I've actually been giving advice to so many people. And the more I advise people, the more I learn. When people ask me questions, I go up to the internet and search, and sooner or later, I just find myself diving into proper science, proper research, and things like that, just how to improve performance, how to improve strength, and how to improve, of course, the most important, your physique. I mean, everybody wants to look like a Greek god or goddess, so I guess the physique part is really important. And yeah, that's probably my story.
Cool, man. I'm kind of like you, except I was on the opposite end of the spectrum. I was a fat kid growing up. I've always been a big eater. I come from two cultures that really emphasize the dinner table. My mom is Vietnamese, my dad is Italian, so you can imagine just craziness. At Christmas time, birthdays, any sort of celebration, there was like a crap ton of food, so that was what I was all about. And I never really got into sports. I was just a naturally shitty athlete. My saving grace was that I did get into martial arts when I was in middle school, and that lasted all the way through high school. And being an instructor as well. But even though my volume of cardio was actually quite high, I just was still completely out of shape. I was pushing about 105, 110 kilograms at the time. At 5'10", that's a lot of weight to be carting around. I estimate around 30% body fat, 32, 33% body fat. And you know, when you're young, man, it weighs down on you. You know, you realize that you're not as good looking as you could be. You know, you try to wear baggy clothes to conceal the fact that you're fatter than everybody else. Your joints hurt. You're out of breath, even though you just walk up a flight of stairs and it sucks. It spirals into a really bad place emotionally. And when I was 18 years old, I just decided that I needed to get in shape, and I didn't know how. I was inspired by like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Franco Columbo and Flex Wheeler, Serge Nubret, Nasser El Somebody, all these guys that I'd been sort of following directly because the first book I'd ever bought about fitness was Arnold Schwarzenegger's Bodybuilding Bible. And I wanted so bad to get in shape, and I didn't know how, so I tried all these ridiculously high volume bodybuilding splits outlined in Schwartzy's book, and I didn't really get anywhere because it was too much for me to handle at the time. It was like something stupid like 5 exercises times 5 sets of 10 body
Well,
part. That's too much crap for a beginner to be getting into.
definitely
And
for
then there
sure.
was a and then there was the nutrition part. All these people saying all these different things. You should cut carbs. You shouldn't eat past this certain bedtime. You should eat 6 times a day. Cut. And I tried a whole bunch of different things that really didn't help me achieve my goals for the long term. So I eventually started doing some research of my own. I started experimenting with what worked for me, and I discovered little by little the things that really are necessary as far as getting in shape, changing the shape of your body, um, allowing yourself to perform at an optimum level. I got certified, and I really started to take interest in developing myself as a personal trainer and an aspiring strength coach. Strength training hasn't really been my thing in the past, but I am training for a powerlifting competition. Big shout out to Richard and Greg, my 2 awesome coaches. Just because that's an area of fitness that I haven't explored yet, that I would like to um, get to know
Yep.
and master, sort of thing. I've always been more focused on fat loss and physique, um, sort of aesthetics, really, because that's the bulk of my clients are fat loss clients and people that want to get a little bit bigger and whatnot.
Yep. 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 Great stuff. Like, I mean, that's the reason why we have this podcast, is because honestly, there are tons of information on the internet out there, and it's really hard to know what works and what doesn't. So I guess what the aim of our podcast is to just give listeners an insight to what we've tried, what we've done, and we can tell them like, oh, this works. Maybe as a beginner, you should try this. I mean, I'm sure advanced bodybuilders, they probably need the high volume to just put some muscle on but for the beginner, what Arnold Schwarzenegger wrote in his bodybuilding encyclopedia will probably just completely fry the beginner, and the beginner
Oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
wouldn't be able to make any progress. So I guess the aim of the podcast is to just give listeners, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, practical steps they can take home to implement into their training to see improvements.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yep. And
Yeah. What are some of the major influences that you've come across in recent years to keep you inspired in your fitness journey?
I would say the first person that actually got me interested into the whole strength training thing. A huge shout out to Eric Cressy. Actually, he was one of those first few guys. Cause first of all, he's freakingly smart. I mean, I have no idea how his brain functions. And the second thing is that he's not only smart, but he's extremely strong as well. So I mean, when I started reading his blog and I see videos of him deadlifting over 600 pounds and stuff like that at a very low body weight, I mean, that's really impressive. And he was probably one of those guys that got me into the whole anatomy stuff. So I started reading his stuff, and some of his posts contains a lot of anatomy and stuff like that. It really got me into like diving more into anatomy and those deep nerdy kind of stuff. And I guess you could say Eric Cressy is probably one of my first influencers, and there are people like um, Dean Somerset from Canada, another great trainer, works with mostly uh, post rehab clients. And as of recently, I would say on the nutrition side of stuff, Alan Aragon definitely. I'm pretty sure that almost everybody, if you ask anyone about the nutrition side of stuff, they definitely mention Alan Aragon. I mean, like that guy is like everywhere, and probably
Yeah, no, for sure.
Dr. Jacob Wilson from the University of Tampa, Florida. I've been having some discussion with him, talking about nutrition and stuff, fat loss, and as a recent, I guess those are names that come on top of my mind. And another one would be Dr. Jonathan Fast. He's another guy.
No,
Really,
for sure.
yep, really brilliant dude. Critical, uh, really a critical thinker. Dives into the research well, interpret the research well. Something that I can't do well as of now. And I have conversations with him over like studies and stuff, and especially on things like pain science. And since he's a physical therapist, that's his area of expertise. So yeah, that are just some of a few of my influences. There are so many to list down, but you could say
Yeah, I know.
those are a few of mine. What about yourself?
A lot of the ones that you mentioned are sort of my go-to people as far as understanding various areas of I'd actually like to get Alan Aragon on the podcast eventually. I'd like to get Jonathan Fast on here as well because he's just a mine of information. Like the man is just not only smart, and like you said, he really dives into the research and can provide you sort of all the minute details to back up any assertion he makes, which is a critical aspect of being a good coach. You know, and just saying, well, this works because it works for me. Well, that doesn't actually mean anything. You know, everything has to be tailored down and applied to the individual, and that's something that a lot of trainers don't do, at least in the experience that I've had, especially in a place like Vietnam where the industry is still very young. You know, it's still a cash cow more than it is a place where people come in and increase their wellness. So some of my major influences, Alan Aragon, of course, his work has just been momentous in my life as an aspiring personal trainer as far as understanding the science behind fat loss. Lyle McDonald has also been one of my absolute favorite writers because he's been able to really skillfully take complicated subjects and break them down in a way that is easy to understand while still remaining critical and objective as well as scientific. Jonathan Fast is a great resource. I got the Juggernaut as well. I learned quite a bit about strength training per se from the boys at Juggernaut.
Yep.
Chad Wesley Smith is an absolute beast. Him and Greg Knuckles, my coach, have done some pretty good collabos in the past. Greg is also an incredibly smart guy. Matter of fact, we're gonna have him on the podcast pretty soon.
Yep. Amazing.
Yeah. Who else? Ton of people.
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, those are just a few guys that come to the top of my mind, but there's just a huge list of people that have influenced me in the past 7 years of me doing this. Talk a little bit about we talked a little bit about how you got into the strength game. What have been some of the more, let's say, effective methods of training for you as a powerlifter and as sort of a team sport athlete? What are the things that you've found in your own training that have really helped you to push it to the next level?
All right. This could be, I would say, as of recent, I guess higher volume, higher frequency training seems to be working pretty well for me because I used to be really bad. I mean, I hate doing high repetitions, man. Anything above 5 reps is cardio for me, and it's just a pain in the butt to do like high repetitions. But I realized that doing high repetitions allows me to perfect my technique with a moderately heavy amount of weight. And not only that, I mean, we know that high volume, high repetitions can uh, that lead to some hypertrophy as well. So definitely some high rep stuff recently has been a staple in my training. And I used to be like those. I mean, this is not to hate on the West Side guys. I mean, the West Side guys are strong, but I used to be like doing very low reps but maximum weight. But as of recent, when I switched to a higher repetition sort of training, I felt that my gains and my strength were better, and I actually feel better because I'm not moving such heavy amount of weight. So it actually spares my central nervous system better, allows me to recover better, and I guess as a result, that is what has been working for me. And for explosiveness, I would always say to include some form of jumping or some form of sprinting at the start. So it could probably be just a weighted squat jump, simple stuff like that, or hill sprints. I usually don't do flat sprints just because I mean it's really taxing for the body. I think hill sprints are a much safer alternative, especially for people who just who just want to start sprinting. So I would say for explosiveness, if you're not looking to be like a top level athlete and stuff, adding some jumps, adding some sprints, and for the upper body, some medicine ball throws will definitely help with your explosiveness. And for my training, it will be, you could say, higher frequency, higher volume training has been sort of my aha moment as of recent. What about yourself? Any aha moments or anything you've been doing? Like,
It's funny you should mention high frequency, high volume because that's the program that Greg has me on at the moment. I'm pairing up two main lifts, or actually no, not really. I'm pairing up deadlifts and squats 2 days a week, and overhead press and bench 2 days a week. And then there's a technique day, where I do all three lifts in the same day. It's a really good split because it allows me to really kick in my technique without going over it. And like you, I'm doing high frequency and high volume. So like on day one, I'll do heavy deadlifts and light squats and pause squats to dial in the technique. Whereas on day two, I'll do heavy bench and light overhead press, and then I'll do heavy overhead press, light bench, and then heavy squats, light deadlifts as my as just a way to really kick in the technique. And my strength has really improved a lot over the last 4 months. Before that, I was doing 5-3-1, and I found the volume wasn't nearly as high enough for me to make gains. And overall, it's again one of those things whereby you need to really focus on what works best for you. You know, I know that Greg used the West Side template in his earlier years, and he grew like a freaking weed. And nowadays, he has me on a daily undulating periodization program, which is something that I believe he's working on as well in his own program. So, yeah, I found that the higher frequencies really helped me to dial in my technique. I'm a lot more comfortable in the bottom position of a squat. I feel that my technique is getting a lot more solid, and I'm able to move pretty heavy weights at high intensity for 8 to 10 reps. And because the volume keeps on changing week in and week out, I'm able to manipulate the intensity as well to match the weights that I'm moving. Yesterday I squatted 300 for 8, which was
nice stuff.
kind of shaky, but I hope to break 400-pound squats in the next 6 months. Yeah, that's my program in a nutshell. A lot of not a lot of jumps, not a lot of anything except for bare bone basics because I'm just working on strength. I'm not doing a whole lot of cardio, and yeah, I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Definitely, I mean, with
on that same note, this is something that I'm able to handle now because I've been training for about 7 years. But I wouldn't necessarily take this routine or this type of training and give it to one of my newer clients because it's just not needed. What are some of the things that you would do with the intermediate, pre-intermediate, sort of beginner clients? What are some of the staple programs that you would recommend for them?
All right. I would say for intermediate clients, I would probably classify them as like probably at least 1 or 2 years, in training, and they have like um, they at least have some muscle mass. They at least have some muscle mass on their body. So I wouldn't say. I would say I actually would like a upper body and lower body split. So if they can 4 times a week, upper body, lower body split. If not, if they can do it 3 times a week, we probably do upper body, lower body, and then full body on another day. And I would say
Yeah, that's what I would do as well.
what I like to do is probably sort of a sub maximal, probably 6 times 3 for the basic movement, whether it's squat, bench press, deadlift, or overhead press. Those basic movements, I probably do like a 6 times 3 or like probably 6 times 3, and then right after that, we probably go into some sort of more of an accessory movement sort of stuff. So probably higher repetitions, 3 times 3 sets of 10 reps, and things like that. And I found that it gives them a very nice blend of strength plus some added extra hypertrophy, which is I'm sure could benefit like almost anybody, unless of course you're trying to make weight and the unnecessary muscle weight is preventing you from making weight class. Other than that, I think that the added muscle growth would actually make you look better, build your physique. So I would say a strength exercise, six sets of 3 moderately heavy weights, and then probably slightly lighter, probably like accessory movement and isolation movement of like maybe 3 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps for my intermediate clients, and that's been like actually really helping them a lot. And yeah, so I guess before we close up, would you like to tell the listeners who do we have lined up? Just give them a teaser like of the great guests we're gonna have coming up, and what are some of the topics the guests will be talking on.
I do believe that we're going to be speaking to Lars Avemarie next week. This guy is just ridiculous, man. Like, all about the pain science and the sleep science, which I think is an area of fitness that is grossly neglected in the mainstream. Nobody really wants to talk about it very much, especially sleep science. I think it's incredibly important to really hammer in the point that if you're not going to recover by sleeping enough, your body is just going to shut down, and it's something that I've been really noticing in my own training because it's been a very busy period. Sometimes I can't get to sleep till 1, 2 o'clock. I have to be at work by 7, and yeah, I can catch up on my sleep during the weekend, but then by day 4, day 5 of training, my body just goes back into that state of I can't freaking move, and my gains suffer. So sleeping is a big thing. We got Greg Knuckles, who's my coach, great guy, shout out to him, who's gonna come in and talk to us about strength training, what it entails, give some basic templates for constructing your own strength program, maybe talk a little bit about technique and his own journey towards superstardom, because he's just rising like a freaking comet. Don't want to promise anything, but I did speak to Alexander Cortez from Mountain Dog, a friend of mine. See if he can bring a little bit of expertise to the mix, get our rant on about different topics in the fitness industry that we're really, really annoyed about, that aren't being dealt properly.
Yep.
Those are the people that I've spoken to at the moment. Is there anybody from your side that you want to bring on board?
I guess on my end would be people like Abi Leg. The guy he's really smart, even though he doesn't really like show that he's a freaking genius. But the thing I like about Ami is that he takes research and break it down into very, very practical steps, which is actually the whole point of our podcast is to give listeners something practical to take home. I mean, yeah, that he's one of the guests I actually have on my mind, and other people would be like, I guess, like we mentioned, Alan Aragon, definitely somebody I want to bring on. Jonathan Fast, another really smart dude, and yeah, just
Yeah, for sure, man.
people like that. I mean, the just by the lineup you mentioned just now, I myself I'm already getting excited. So let's hope like the listeners will be as excited as well. Definitely, it's definitely going to be a great podcast. With all the guest lineup and the topics we're going to cover, and yeah, I guess that's that's about it for our first introduction episode. Should be enough. Anything you want to say to the listeners before we close?
Yeah, come hang out with us. We're cool. We're gonna have a lot of interesting content. Again, we're gonna be trying to disband some of the stupid myths that are being perpetuated by the mainstream media, and we're gonna get a rant on. We're gonna sort of try and bring solutions to the problems that we feel are littering the fitness industry. So come hang out, tune in, get some popcorn. It's gonna be a great time.
Yep, that's right. So yep, once again, Danielle and Kendrick from 50 Shade of Gainz, and we'll catch you
Bring
next
it.
time. Yep, peace,
All
brother.
right. Laters.
Later, man.